Hey, it's Bethany Finch with American Made Home Solutions, and it's Win Wednesday. This Win Wednesday, we want to talk about passive investing. And the reason we're talking about passive investing is there's so many people that last year parked their money and held on to it. And now they got to figure out what to do with it, because they realized it sat there and did nothing for them all year long, and in fact lost money because of the price of inflation. So we want to focus on passive investing and what that means for you as the investor, what that means for the operator, and what that means on the return side of things from your tax standpoint, from not just a cash flow perspective, but all of the above. So many folks had a pile of cash sitting in their different accounts, whether it's a checking account, savings account, sometimes maybe even a CD when they were getting like 1%, but they just didn't feel comfortable investing those monies because of what they saw in previous years, because of what the media was putting out there, and they didn't understand enough to feel confident. Well, we want to kind of help get you over that curve. We want you to feel more confident in your investment opportunities, as well as when one comes down the pike and you actually see one in front of you, you know what to do with it. So many folks know, for instance, that they want to be in multifamily, but they don't have the time. They don't want to deal with the tenants and toilets. They don't want to do the work that's involved, nor do they know how to buy a $24 million property. So they know they need to invest if they want to be in multifamily, but they don't know how and what that looks like. So the first step is you need to find an operator that is doing it in a way that you are comfortable with. So for instance, maybe they're in a market you like. Maybe they have the same aligned values that you have. Maybe they have a good track record that you have followed and watched through the years. Maybe you have been in business with them in other investment processes. Maybe you just know that they've been doing it long enough that you feel more secure in that investment. Whatever that is, you need to stop and ask yourself who that operator is. Then when you ask those questions of that operator, you know if it's the right one for you or not. There's a lot of operators all across this great country doing great things. There's a lot of bad operators doing bad things. Just like every day we have evil around us, and we don't want your investments to be lost. But in the same breath, if your money is sitting in your 401k, do you know the guy that's pushing the button that tells the computer which stocks and bonds to invest in? No, you don't know any about them. You don't even know if they have any alignment with you. You don't even know anything other than they're going to be the guys charging you a fee and pushing a button. So you have much more control when you come into as a passive investor into an investment than you realize, because you don't have to come in. But the first thing you also need to realize is if you are what's called a sophisticated investor or an accredited investor. The reason you need to know if you're a sophisticated investor or accredited investor long before you ever know an operator doing things that you want to invest in is because if you are a sophisticated investor, what that means is the government says you have a net worth of less than $1 million, not including your primary. You do not make $200,000 a year or more as an individual, or $300,000 a year or more as a couple. That's what the government defines as. Now, you're sophisticated if you've done some investing or maybe if you're doing real estate, you've bought and sold some real estate on your own, things of that nature. There's other things that you can qualify to be sophisticated. But an accredited investor has to be above that threshold. So they have to make more than $200,000 as an individual, more than $300,000 as a couple, or have a net worth of above $1 million, not including their primary. Now, to do those things, sometimes you have to prove it. So if you want to be a passive investor in a 506c offering, you have to prove your accreditation. If you go into a 506b offering, you do not have to prove it unless your operator requires it. The IRS does not require it. but we're limited as to how many sophisticated investors can be in that. So if we have a 506B offering, for instance, only 35 of them can be non-accredited. So we have the certain number, and once that's filled, it's filled. Everybody else has to be accredited. See, accredited investors can go into either of those deals, but non-accredited are limited. So you need to understand, first off, if you're accredited or non-accredited. And that can change. And we have helped investors change their status. So don't think it's the end of the world just because you're maybe sophisticated right now. You can become accredited later. So don't panic there. But also, once you know that, certain operators never do 506B offerings. So if they're never doing 506B offerings and you're a sophisticated investor, you'll never be able to invest with them. So it's very important that you understand who you are first, the value you're bringing. If you only have $10,000 to invest, most of them have a minimum of $50,000 and up. So you may not be the right fit for that type of investment, and you might want to be looking at other investments. So know who you are first, accredited, non-accredited, how much value you're looking to invest. Then find an operator doing well in the area that you want to be investing in, whether that's multifamily, whether that's as a capital fund manager where you wanted to mitigate your risks and move it across different asset classes, whether it's storage, maybe it's debt, right? Maybe it's ATM machines. I had people doing great things. Maybe it's oil and gas like we've done this year, right? Whatever that is, find an operator that's doing it in the investment class that you want to be in, that also accepts the type of investor you are, right? Keep that in mind as well. Then once you know that, you know who you are, you know what you bring, and now you want to find operators doing it. Sometimes it can be hard to find them. If you're a doctor, how do you even know where to look, right? So that's what we need to talk about, is how do you find these operators? Lots of ways that you can find an operator in a specific asset class that you're looking for. So for instance, we do multifamily, we do build to rent, we do single family, we do executive rentals, we do oil and gas, we do debt, right? I'm having to stop and think about all the different things that we do, and storage, right? So there's so many different asset classes out there. Find one that you like first. Once you find one that you like and you're looking for that operator, there's several things you can do. Obviously, you can ask your friends and family, hey, do any of you guys invest in, say, storage? And they would say, no, I don't, but I know someone who does. So you can get your friends and family referrals. You can also go on to places like LinkedIn, sometimes Facebook, not generally Instagram, but it is out there. YouTube is the other big one. So I would suggest LinkedIn and YouTube over those top two to start finding who's actually telling their story, who's telling you that they're in. For instance, if you look up American Made Home Solutions, we are clearly telling you we do multifamily. We are clearly telling you that we do oil and gas. We are clearly telling you that we have executive rentals and that we asset manage and we do all of these things, right? And you can figure that out by looking at our YouTube channel or our LinkedIn channel. So that's a great way to look there. You can also look, for instance, if you know you want to go into multifamily, you could actually reach out to commercial brokers and you could ask them, hey, do you know anybody who's buying and selling in your market? And they'll tell you. So if you actually want it to be in your specific market and you actually want them to be investing there, then you can actually reach out to commercial brokers and find out from them, hey, who's doing this? And they'll tell you. You can also Google it, right? Multifamily renovation or multifamily. Many of the time, if you look up multifamily owners, you're not going to get a list. It does not work that way. But what you will get is property management companies. And property management companies is a way to backdoor it and find out, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with the owners. What's the best way for me to find that out? So it's another way. It's not the best way, and it's kind of tricky at times. So your top two choices are your friends and family, right, which everybody normally goes to and asks. but then also LinkedIn and YouTube. When you go there, do keyword searches. Do look up multifamily, look up storage, specific asset class, but also sometimes you can look up a name. Like for instance, I speak a lot around the country. So sometimes people will look up my name and people will have tagged me in different things, and that name can lead to other names. So if you look up my name, and maybe I spoke about executive rentals and you want to know more about executive rentals, you've gone through all of our YouTube channel and you want to keep looking, then Google will suggest others. So it's another way to kind of follow the rabbit trail and keep going if someone along that way doesn't align with you. But then you can always reach out to them. Most people may not know this, but you can reach out through YouTube. So you can reach out to them through YouTube and or through LinkedIn and get a message to them and say, hey, I'm trying to reach out. I want to know more about this. Many of us have our own websites. So if you find them on YouTube and it, for instance, like ours, it says American Made Home Solutions. You can actually Google American Made Home Solutions and Google will send you right to our website. On our website, it will tell you all the different things we do. It'll tell you how to get in touch with us, on and on and on. So you can do the same thing for others that you find along the way. So you first have to learn about you, who you are, what you bring, right? What type of investor you are, how much you're going to be able to invest, what type of investment you need to be looking for. Then you need to find an operator doing it in an asset class that you want. Or, for instance, like we're a fund manager. So we have been running operations through all of this, but as a fund manager, we also diversify. So we partner with some of we're not asset managing the oil and gas, right? We have guys that are doing that, doing tremendous job at it, but I'm not the one doing it, but I've done all the due diligence on them. So we do it as a way to mitigate the risk for you, the investor. So a fund manager is another one that you can look up, and a fund manager will also give key information and statistics and things of that nature. So with that, one of the best things you can do for yourself is actually click here to get this free download on what I need to know about passive investing. Because it doesn't matter what asset class you're in, it doesn't matter who the operator is, you as an investor need to do your due diligence first. And you may not know what you need to ask. So if you don't know because you've never done it, how are you supposed to ask the right questions? Well, this book, that if you click on the link below, this book is full of 16 plus questions that every investor needs to be asking. When you get those answers, you'll probably have more, but it will definitely start you down the rabbit trail. So just because somebody has a ebook that's 300 questions doesn't mean it's necessarily of more value to you, but it may have some other questions that someone else's may not have, but it's also going to take you longer to read it. So just keep that in mind. So these are the quick 16 questions that every investor should be asking. And when you do, it oftentimes will lead to the next set of questions that based on your risk level and your risk tolerance, you should be asking as well. So click on the link below, get our free book. It's completely free to you, no strings attached. We want you to be better educated so that when investments come across your plate, you know what to do with it. You know how to ask the right questions and who should I ask and what should I be looking for and what do I need to understand? What do I not need to worry about? All of those questions are in there, as well as some things that you may never have thought of, like on the back side of it. If I get a big payday, what am I going to do now? How, as a passive investor, do those tax write-offs count? Some of this is information you need to know and think about, because sometimes we don't just necessarily need the growth, but we also need the write-offs, because maybe we have a great year in other areas of our finances and we need to offset some things. Otherwise, we're going to get killed in taxes. So a lot of information can be given out there, but unless you want to take the time to dive into it, you don't necessarily know. So download our book, get the information, start asking the right questions. If you are a sophisticated investor and not an accredited investor, you are never going to see an offering that you can invest in unless you already have a relationship with those operators. So what that means is if I put out a 506B offering, you can't invest in my offering unless you and I already have a relationship. Well, that means you should have already talked to me. You should have already heard me. You should have already reached out to me on YouTube and LinkedIn and made that call so that we can start that relationship. So to do that, you need to click there today. You need to download our book, start down that journey, get on the list so that you can start asking the right questions to make the best decisions for you and your family so you can make better passive income choices this year and stay ahead of inflation, but also wise decisions that continue to build and grow your finances in a way that makes sense for you and your family. Until the next time, bye for now.